The main focus of my research is in the philosophical foundations of cognitive science. And the philosophical problems that are raised about cognitive science are very important, although cognitive scientists don't worry about them. The kinds of problems the philosophers raise are important because if the philosophers are right, then in fact cognitive science is entirely bankrupt and says absolutely nothing about how the human mind works. I have a book that was published by MIT Press in 2008, which looks very carefully at 4 central philosophical problems that were articulated and developed by Hilary Putnam, who is one of the most famous philosophers of the 20th century. Putnam embraced the idea that the mind is a machine. That is to say, the mind is an information processing device, which is the central idea underlying cognitive science. In the mid-80s, Putnam was no longer satisfied with that answer, and in fact thought that it was a false philosophical view, and argued against it. He made 4 very important arguments, and those are the 4 arguments that I addressed and extended and developed in various ways. One argument involves the use of a mathematical theorem from mathematical logic to refute the view that the mind is a machine. And Putnam discovered a way out of a problem for using this theorem, and it's a remarkable discovery. Unfortunately, I've argued it doesn't work. A second problem, and this is notoriously difficult, is called the triviality problem. The definition of what it is for a physical system to physically realize a computation. Computations are abstract, but they're physically realized in physical devices like computers. And if our brains, according to cognitive science, are information processing devices, then our brains physically realize computations. Well, what people who argued against the view that the mind is a machine noticed is that the definition of what it is for a physical system to physically realize a computation is so loose that any physical system could satisfy that definition. So right now, any object in this room could be computing any function. My shirt right now could be computing a function. That's obviously ridiculous. But notice the problem for cognitive science. If any physical object computes every computable function, then there's nothing that that physical object doesn't do. Thus, cognitive science is not a science at all. I'd like to talk about another area that I have been working in actively since the early 1990s, and this is critical thinking. My own view is that there is a crisis in American education. If someone graduated from an American high school without being able to read or do arithmetic, we would say it's a scandal. If you look at the mission statement of Rutgers University, you'll find that among other things, the university education should give the student the ability to think critically and analytically. If a student leaves the university and is unable to think critically and analytically, then that's a scandal. And my view is that almost no one is able to engage in correctly the most fundamental critical thinking skill there is, namely critically assessing arguments. I've spent a lot of time developing what I think is an innovative method for teaching this simple skill, how to tell when someone's reasons are good or bad. And my view is that the correct way to do this requires the active use of the imagination. Creativity, a powerful imagination, and being smart, that is to say, being able to tell whether someone's reasons are good or bad when they make claims about the world, go hand in hand.